Hello, this is Chris Wisnia. Rina, it's great to see you. Would you introduce yourself and let us know what you're known for?
Oh,
Put you on the
uh,
spot.
um, my name's Rina Ayuyang. I'm a cartoonist. I'm based here in Oakland, California. I just came out with a new book this year called The Man in the Macintosh Suit. It's like film noir detective story that's set in San Francisco and follows a group of Filipino migrant workers um trying to figure out a mystery up in San Francisco. And What am I noted for? Oh, you know what? I mean, this is not, it's supposed to be what are you noted for? Like you're a cartoonist, whatever, blah, blah. But what I'm really noted for is that I am from my hometown's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so people who know me know that like I'm all into Pittsburgh sports, whether I like it or not. And so anytime somebody like knows, all this, they just thought that's the first thing they say, like, oh, what about the Steelers? So that's like a random thing that people would know me for. I also love to do karaoke, so that's what I like to think I'm noted for is good karaoke.
You're a
The
celebrity on the
karaoke.
karaoke scene.
Yeah, I like to think so. But yeah, so I'm a cartoonist. um Alt comics is kind of like my foundation. So
Yeah,
yeah.
like you, I'm a parent, and as a
Yes.
parent, haven't had much time to read many comics lately. But
Yeah.
since I just put my graphic novel out, and
Right.
Fantagraphics got me on that panel with you at Comic
Yeah.
Con, and that's where we met. And I had the
And you
opportunity to read Man in the Macintosh Suit, and I'm a huge noir fan already, and it was a super fun read. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed, noir. You think black and white films, and you kind of captured a black and whiteness to it
hmm
while using your color palette, and I thought that
yeah.
was a fun kind of spin on the noir.
Yeah, totally. That's what I was thinking too. Like we're just so used to black and white film, like 30s, 20s, 30s, even 40s. And but if you look on the screen, especially like nowadays, I don't know how it was back when they were originally shown. Your TV is processed to show things in color. So there's always that little hint of color or like a duotone. And so I always see color in black and white. So there's that whole thing with the blues and conjuring up San Francisco, foggy town, San Francisco, but also bringing out, what I like in comics, what I'm noted for, is the color in the comics I've done in my past recent books. And so I wanted to continue like thinking about color and more strategically where to place color in certain scenes and to evoke certain emotions for certain scenes. And yeah, and I was just gonna say I was gonna interrupt you because I've been noted to interrupt a lot, um, which I'm trying to stop. Like especially like being in like
Please.
doing interviews. I actually am like trying to like but I was gonna say I love I read your work too, your latest graphic novel, and it's amazing. It's just it's like a whole experience, and um and it's just like this great homage to like EC comics and and for me and personally, and I just at least I we could talk more about your influences with it, but I was just drawn by the characters and just also just like the care that you put into telling a story, but also using the whole format of comics and like that like the story itself just kind of actually like literally jumps off the page and it's not just within these panels or borders, and it was really exciting and cinematic, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really yeah, people need to get your book, Chris,
I
definitely, if
I
they
really
haven't gotten it
appreciate
already.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really kind of you to say.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking? We should do another talk sometime where we gush about each other's work, because
Yeah.
this one I wanted to
Well,
talk about our struggles of being comics
right.
creators.
Yeah, these are that we're talking about our actual like success and happiness. And yeah, we need to really make this a downer, like normal conversation on in a coffee shop. Definitely. Let's bring
Well,
it down.
well, listeners, we're out of time. Hope you got some good info out of creating comics.
Yeah.
Let's go to the very beginning here. I actually don't know a lot about you, and I'm curious about your
Yeah.
how you came into comics. Like what comics were you seeing as a kid that excited you, and how
Mhm.
did you make that decision? I want to make some of these.
Well, like when I was a kid, the first things I would read was like the newspaper had a comic section, and so I gravitated towards that, and especially the Sunday funnies, especially in full color. I was like, whoa. So I was just really into comic strips and gag strips, and that's where it really came from. And when I was a kid, I really thought I wanted to be a cartoonist like Charles Schultz or you know, Ernie Bushmiller, like Nancy, and but even like just even Doonesbury, like Gary Trudeau, like just, I loved his line and I loved his dialogue and I loved his commentary on on current events. And so I really wanted to do that to create my own characters and create my own world. And I was also into cartoons, so Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies and so Sunday funnies and Saturday cartoons were my thing. And so I was all into especially like humor comics and cartoons. So I wanted to get into that world, and I actually um made some comics like early on, like comic strips, and one was just based on, I think it was like middle school or towards high school. I did a comic about me running my own like late show talk show. And it was me and a bunch of other characters, and so so um yes, I was always interested in that aspect. I wasn't as interested in superhero comics, or it was always just like reading like those Fawcett books, like Charlie Brown and like
But
Dennis the Menace.
even your earliest project, you were a character in the story.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, God, I mean, really? Like, it's just like I couldn't get away from like talking about myself, which is very pretentious thinking about it. And it was like, can't you like just be creative and try to like stretch your imagination a bit? But I guess apparently not. And then later on, like, yeah, I was into like Dick Tracy and like just like detective serials. And so I was doing I found a bunch of these detective comics I was making in high school when I was back home at my childhood home to help clean up the house. And I thought I just like had made like maybe four or five. I had made like about 30 strips, and they weren't really like, there was like, the story wasn't really going anywhere. um it was just always very like exposition, like the exposition, and but there just like there was no like a lot of my work, there it was no finality to it. Like it was just like I had this idea and it's just gonna keep going and going, but I guess that's the magic of serialized comics. But so I've always just wanted to be a cartoonist that way. But I went then I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then after high school I moved to San Francisco. Went to San Francisco State and got an art degree, and I was like, well, I always wanted to be like an artist, so I was like focused on painting, and I got into this program. This was like the 90s, and it was like all about postmodernism, and so we were all just like, oh, we're gonna make art like conceptual art and like doing performance art, and we're just gonna like do all this non-fine art. It's not going to be about commodities, and so we were just all about making art, just like as the process. So I was just focused on that, and then like after college, I just discovered comics again. Like I had, when you go to like art school, like school or college, or like go with comics, it's just like that was your thing that was like the childhood version of art making. And then now you're going into serious art making, which is like painting and all that. Yeah.
I,
And
everything you say,
digital video.
I had the
Yeah,
exact same experience.
right.
I enjoyed comics as a kid. I went to UC Davis and got a degree in
Mm,
art, and they wouldn't let you think about comics there, and we were
mm-hmm.
making art, you know, and
Yeah. I mean, I just remember like when I went back into comics, like early aughts, like 2000, um, you know, like a lot of my cartoonist colleagues would be frustrated with like art school because like, yeah, art did not take comics or even like illustration in that sense of like, graphic illustration, seriously. Like they just thought like, oh, this is just like craftsmanship and like clip art and there's nothing to say with it and yeah, it just felt like we were like this low art that, well, yeah, wasn't considered anything. And so like the evolution of comics in academia is really interesting to like, to see that.
with
You
all
know,
that said, did you get anything out of your art education that you find yourself, you know, kind of still thinking about as you make comics, something that really landed and was helpful to your work?
yeah, actually, for sure. I had this really great, impactful class that was a figure drawing class, and we would do these exercises where we would do these 5 minute figural studies. So like we'd have like a model, a figure model, and we would draw that person or even object, it's like a still life set up. And we would only have 5 minutes to like render this whole like scene. And that was helpful in that it like made you focus on the important aspects of that scene and to not use so much in order to render or to um to show the entire um scene basically. So you didn't have to think too much of it. You just like went into it and you just wanted to look at like, okay, what are the most important parts in order to like what is the essence of this certain thing or this person. And so that was really helpful with cartooning because especially if you're like making like especially like like with Peanuts or even with like Jaime Hernandez's work, there's simple lines. They're just very simple. There's not so much cross hatching, but they're and within like those simple lines you get so much of like who that person is, like that Snoopy is Snoopy just from like the curve of like the way his snout is, it's round, and then like or just like with Charlie Brown there's that one hair curl. And so you from that you just get, because that's what I got, like where I'm just like just find out the bare essentials and work from that.
Yeah.
And then another thing that was really interesting, this other professor, he was just like, a good practice is just to draw while you're watching TV, because like, which was helpful for me because that's all I did during college was just watch TV. And he's like try to like draw like especially act like shows that have a lot of action. Um, and because that was just another same type of exercise where you're just trying to get like the important parts of a scene down um and 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 focusing on those important things. And so I think that was very useful in like creating a scene in comics and certain panels, is like what
These
is
are great.
because it's like sequential, like there are things that you really need to draw, but there are also things that the reader visualizes or figures out in their mind, like the whole thing of like sequential panels, like this thing happens but then your mind also like furthers the action, the reader's mind furthers the action, so you don't even need to draw a certain you know part of that scene to get to the from A to B. um
This
so
is
that
a
was
lesson.
fun.
This is a lesson
Yeah.
that it took me a while to realize. And you know, playing pictogram with friends, they'd say, "Oh, I bet you're good at this. You're an artist." But I was trying to like, Oh, time,
Yeah,
but I haven't finished, and
I
then
need,
someone else
yeah.
would just go boom, and they'd say, oh, it's a house.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's true, capturing that essence. And another thing I've been thinking about with my college was they would always say draw from life, and I would always think, why should you draw from
Mm,
life? Why can't I copy a picture, or why can't I trace a picture? But when you copy a picture, trace a picture, you realize that there are aspects in your mind of what that image is
mm,
that don't come
mm-hmm.
through in the photo. And so, like, I think of, like, I try to take a good photo of my dog, and it never
Yeah.
quite feels
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
the dog, because I know that the dog looks like this way and this way, but the photo just gets that and removes all
Yeah.
that extra detail. And if you say, as you say, you can get that essence in the line and the shape, that
Right.
isn't actually there, in a photo.
Right,
You're
right.
capturing
That's
more than reality.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really good point because, like, when you are looking at something in real life, there's so many layers to it. There's like, it's three-dimensional. So you not just get like, the surface, like superficial thing, but you get, all like literally all different aspects of that thing and like how it also interacts with the world as well. So, just like just like the air and the smells and like the colors, how the colors change with like, with movement. Yeah, I think all of that is part of like how you tell that story of that character, that thing. Trying to think of other things I learned from, but um also that like art is subjective. So that I learned that a lot from art class. And I think it's also part of comics. It's like that, there are so many different types of comics and ways to do comics. And just talking about this yesterday with somebody and it's just like having an open mind about someone who has a different style from you that you may never get or understand, but also acknowledge that a lot of the work and the thought process that went behind that is equally important to like the end product.
Try to
So
take it on the artist's terms, right?
yeah,
This is the
mm-hmm.
world they've created. I was talking about Renoir
Uh-huh.
with a friend, and Renoir has a lot of haters, and
Mm-hmm.
I always used to look at Renoir and go, oh, these are so pink and squishy
Pretty, yeah.
looking, and this is not for me. But then over time, I kind of just changed my attitude of, well, that's Renoir. And
Uh-huh.
how can I appreciate, whatever that is? And then you're just kind of tackling it from a different angle, where you can
Yeah.
still think, okay, well, notice that this is a theme in all the pieces, and just take it on its own terms, right?
Yeah. Do you hate the Impressionists?
Yes.
Not one.
Did you say hate or
Not even
like?
hate.
I don't. I actually really enjoy the Impressionists, but when I was
Oh, okay.
young and when I was
Okay.
in school, I kind of thought, oh, this is sissy,
Yeah, yeah.
stuff. It's all fields and flowers, and I want
Right.
manly things in my art.
Uh-huh. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
So tell me, when did you start making actual comics? Either distributing them or
Uh-huh.
getting tables at shows, or like what was your big coming out party into the comics industry?
Well, I first discovered comics again when I was in a bookstore in Stacy's in San Francisco, and they had a graphic novel section. I'm trying to remember like what came like first, but like this was the most impactful was just like going to the graphic novels section, killing time, um, and seeing this one like collection among all the Marvel collections of Adrian Tamina's Sleepwalk. Um, and and it was like a collection of a lot of his optic nerve comics, like kind of like in the middle point, I think. And And I was just like blown away by the stories he was telling because they were just so different than what I was used to seeing in comic book form. Like I was just used to seeing, Dark Knight, Batman, superheroes or like Dilbert, you know, and it was like just stuff that was about like normal people and going through normal like hardships and like issues and people just having really amazing dialogue and I was like this is like what I want to cover with like comics and who knew you could do this. And I mean, I don't know if it was that one that was like the beginning, but like also, then I just started to discover like Chester Brown's work. Like I Never Liked You was like a pivotal moment in that like I could use this format to tell stories I wanted to talk about. And it didn't have to be like in a gag like cartoons format. It didn't have to have that funny punchline. I didn't have to think of like coming up with something like every week or every day to that and it was just like stuff that I was just ruminating about. And then I discovered John Porcellino and King Cat. So like all this kind of just I just found like I just needed to find more and more and more of the same type of storytelling. And I think I just was like in a right time, like during like I guess it, in alt comics where this was like the type of storytelling that a lot of cartoonists were doing at the time. Um and I was still very much self-conscious about my work. But I started this I self-published a mini comic called Namby Pamby, and it was these small slice of life type tales, and not so much autobio, but based on a lot of like of my own life in the suburbs. So it was an autobio, yeah, but very much based on life. Um, and then I would just like I wouldn't go out to like anything yet. I would write letters to people and trade my mini comic with other cartoonists through the mail. And because there were so many like zines that like review zines like Zine World, Comixology. Wait, no, not Comixology, but there was another one that was like it was a small little pamphlet. I thought it was called like Comixology, which is like we'll have to figure out Comixology took the name from this small little zine, but like it was like a review zine of like all everyone else's like mini comics and zines, and they're like there'd be a little part where you're like if you want to trade, send this to our PO box. So I would do that like constantly. So I did that with like Austin English, and when Austin English was doing the 10th frame, this whole like amazing series about Thelonious Monk, and so I would trade with him, and I would trade with um I'm trying to think of like early, like I think I sent mine to John Porcellino. He would trade back like a King Caddishaw, and so like it was really definitely through the mail and email. And then I think once I kind of felt comfortable like, hanging out, went
Had you
out.
at that point had you gotten some feedback from some of these creators that you really enjoyed, or what was it just sort of a trade and then you
Yeah,
kind of heard from
oh,
each other?
it was a trade, but it was like it was building a community, definitely. Like I remember
Yeah.
Austin like sent his comic back and he actually, Austin is from the San Francisco Bay Area, and so he was a part of that scene, but he had moved to I think he moved to New York at that time. He had just moved and he had told me like, yeah, you need to like get together with all these cartoonists in the Bay Area. There's like so many, and I was like, ugh. And I don't know how I remembered how I think I found out about this comics jam when I decided to do Zine Fest, San Francisco Zine Fest one year. And that's when I met like, like Andries Arp and Lark Pien and I think and Jesse Recklaw. And he was the one who was just like started he was running Global Hobo, which was this distro for mini comics and zines. And he actually was I think he was the one who invited me to go to a comics jam. They had comics jams in Berkeley, like I want to say every week. And I was like, yeah, sure, but I just was like not ready to hang out with other cartoonists. I didn't think I was good enough to hang out. And I don't know what happened one day. I just decided to go, and and they were like, finally you came out. Like we've been waiting for you. And it was Jesse and Josh Frankel and Fred Nolan came. Joey Sayers was there. And I was intimidated, because it was like these guys just like knew each other. And but they were drawing. That was the whole thing, is that they were constantly, like, Jesse was drawing all the time. Like we would talk and he would just draw, and I was just like kind of really blown away um by how hard they like were into it, like they were working at it. And so yes, I would go to comics jams, and then I'd go to SF Zine Fest, and then like eventually went to the Alternative Press Expo. And then I went to a bunch of other comics, like themed things. Like Portland had one that was Stumptown. It's called Stumptown before line work. And then Minneapolis had one, like Mix, that's what it was called at that time.
So
That was before, like,
you
what's
just
that?
kept spreading out.
Yeah, like but it was mainly local. But then I started, like, I started this online magazine, and I was like starting to like look for artists and writers. And so it was called Creative Skin. It's not very original, but I kind of liked promoting other people's work, or like having this, like, the whole thing of community and just like collaborating and discovering new work. And so, like, I learned about like Jonathan Hill, um, Matt Zandretta, and like Dave Ortega, who is just put out, like, I haven't I haven't talked to Dave Ortega in a long time, but like now he has like a really amazing like workout right now. And So it was just like a way to build community with artists and writers and cartoonists. So I did that. And so that was like another reason why I was tabling, was to kind of promote like these zines that we created together. I remember, like, now I think of it, like I'd reached out because of part of mail order, like Warren Craighead, and then then I got kind of, I found out about the USS Catastrophe guys, like Dan Zetwalk and Kevin Uzenga and Ted May, and they ran a distro online. And so that's how I found out about a lot of different other cartoonists making mini comics. I would like buy off their website. And then Tom Devlin, who was in Drawn and Quarterly, um, who helped edit my book. But like, he was running High Water Books, and his website, High Water's website, was selling a lot of mini comics too. So I would just like buy mini comics, like by Jordan Crane and Megan Kelso and Greg Cook, who was like one of my favorites. I was doing stuff at the time. And so I was just getting stuff through the mail, really.
Yeah.
And then, like, maybe either emailing or writing like little notes, or sending my comic to them to tell them how much I enjoyed their work. And yeah,
So
so that was that.
when you were making these mini comics, you were printing them out, folding them, stapling them,
Yeah. Yeah, I
and
was really bad at it. Really bad.
and then the distribution system was just if you happened to be at a show, you could sell a few, or like were you going to
Yeah.
local bookstores and seeing if they put a couple copies in? Like were you working it, or were you just like, oh, if they get out there, they get out there? Like, in other words, were you trying to make a business of it and try to make a name for yourself, or was this more kind of feeling like a hobby and
I
just
mean,
fun?
it wasn't really, I didn't never really felt like it was a hobby, like, 'cause I mean, I don't act I also don't think it was like my job. I just felt like it was something I was sort of just called to do, that just didn't make me any money. And it was like just being an artist, really. And I don't think I really named myself as like, this is it, it just was like a great way to come back to art making and being a part of a community of artists. And that's how I saw it when I came into the scene, was that we were still very low stakes, where it was like nobody's making money out of this. and also nobody's looking, nobody's really reading this. Like this is not like a big book market. Like these are little like, staple things that I'm gonna give to like 15 friends or like people at a zine fest and we'll trade, but no one's gonna hear what I write about. So I could write about anything. And so there was so much freedom in that. And so you could just like do whatever you wanted and like you could do it in the style you wanted. You kind of could explore how like drawing styles or writing styles. Um and so yeah, I was really yeah, so I you know what was funny? I actually picked up like a Wizard magazine from Barnes and Nobles, and it was like Jim Mahfood had this little feature that talked about how you make your own comic. And I was like, wow,
All
this
food
is
and
really
wizard.
straight. I know it was like it was like, and also Wizard. And then so basically there's like a how-to on how to do mini comics. And I was like, whoa, I'm gonna do this. And so I did it, and I went to my Kinko's, local Kinko's, um, and I really had no idea how to make a book. I didn't know how to like make sure like prepare my pages. I didn't know how like to actually draw pages like for scale, prepare pages for that for production. And so like my first originals, they're like they're ink washed. And so that's like a no-no in black and white, like that from the beginning. They're like, no, you can't do that because like nothing comes out. Like, so everything came out so murky, and there actually was like an early review of my comic and one of these online comic things. They were saying like it looks. I mean, I really wanted to get into this comic, but I can't see any of it. And so that was like one of the critiques. And so, so I was like I brought my originals to like a photocopy machine. Like made sure to like you know um put them like in order and stuff, and I'd slap them on. But it's like if you see them, it's like I pasted pages together. I pasted like little tabs to put the page numbers. I'm like, oh crap, I need page numbers. I don't even have room for page numbers. So like everything is so slapdash. It was crazy. So it was a huge learning experience, and that was like my first issue. And so yeah, stapling like like I didn't know like yeah, maybe you don't do like 50 pages because it's not gonna pull. And so early on, it was just like black and white, really simple photocopy paper. Um, this
The
like so
technology's
I
really changed, huh?
yeah yeah. So like if you do see like so one to the first to the third issue of Nammy Pammy is all black and white. I think the second and the third was like okay, total line art black and white. Do not do gray wash anymore. You know better. And then like fourth was like I did a color cover, but you can't print white on a colored cover, so I used pro white to 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 paint in the white. It was just really ridiculous. It was, and then the fifth issue was like print GoCo was like happening. Did you do print GoCo?
I never did.
So like yeah, so like everyone was doing silk screen covers, and like that was like a huge deal for like to show color and a nice DIY way that was and also cheaper than printing it in color. So there was also Print Goko, this Japanese, crazy print thing. And I did a couple covers that had like it was ridiculous. It was like 10 colors on a screen. It was just like I had no idea what I was doing. But it came out pretty well, but it was just like this is nuts. And so yeah, it was a lot of DIY, like just trying to make it work type thing. And trying to like hurry up and get like everyone would be like a zine fest would be coming or a convention would be coming and be like, oh crap, we gotta make a comic real quick. And by the time so it was always like everyone would be at the print copy store because you knew that ape was coming or something like that. So
That's so great that the shows were a means to get
yeah,
the juices flowing and keep you on
yeah,
a production schedule.
yeah. So to answer your question, like no, I didn't make money off it. Sorry, like I went. We didn't make money, but I was like it was a way to get the word out about our work, and like mainly it was to have a body of work, really,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
to have a portfolio, and
yeah,
also uh and to like figure out your style. That was a great place to
yeah,
figure things out.
yeah.
Um,
I'm on the cheapy Zoom plan.
oh yeah,
We're about to cut out here. I'd love to talk with you some more though.
okay,
You okay logging off and logging back on, and we can
yeah, on
start
the
talking
same,
about getting a publisher and
yeah.
having a family and some of that fun stuff.
Oh yeah, totally. Okay,
Great.
I'll log off.
See you in a
Okay.
minute. Thanks.